Uh, so after I had the altercation with Adrian, you know, about me filing a complaint against her friend, the coffee shop manager, because that's what I found out afterwards. They were friends. Apparently, everybody tells me that, you know, she's got complaints against her for sexual harassment of men in the IMF. So I think she works her networks amongst the men as well as the women, because she brown noses. I mean, that's how she's gotten, you know, into HR and the whole. I mean, this whole little protection racket that Gina Paoni. She, I mean, Anna Day was there before. And Adrian Thapa was there before. And I'm sure that's why Kate Phillips got ousted, because Kate Phillips was there as well. Then Gina Paoni came in, and I'm sure there was a power struggle within to get into the HR between them, and Gina probably got rid of Kate. I mean, that's most probably what happened. So Kate, ooh, she'll sing like a canary. She'll sing like a canary. Believe me, the rats, when the sink starts shipping, the ship starts sinking, they rat everybody down. So you know that little, that little, and Charmony is in there as well. So I couldn't believe it, because for me, I told Adrian, you know, well, no, I didn't do anything wrong. I did my duty, and for me, it was finished. Because she called me into her office, and I met with her, and I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, she was like, you're going to admit you did something wrong. And I said, no, I didn't do anything wrong. So, as I say, for me, it was over. I kind of was like, Adrian, this is really stupid of you to even call me into your office about this. You should just try and, in that case, you just sweep it under the carpet. I filed my complaint with the building management. It's done. But no. So then I guess she's going to Kate, you know, on my back, instead of doing her job and working Kate, and you know that I had done something wrong. So then Kate calls me into her office and talks to me about it, and I'm floored. I am floored, because I can't believe Kate can be that stupid to try and you know, same tactic. You have to admit you did something wrong. You have to admit that you did something wrong. And I'm like, no, I didn't do anything wrong, and I actually did what was my obligation as a citizen. Um, you know, and when she couldn't get me to acquiesce, she kind of, I forget how it ended, but it was stupid. So I'm like, God, you idiots. People really, 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 really are stupid. Every time I turn around, I'm like, do you realize what you're doing? And do you realize that I'm not screwing around here? And I'm not that stupid bimbo that you're trying to make everybody think. And you know that, even though you're trying to make everybody think it, just like with my ex-husband. I mean, see, the psychopaths and the narcissists, they just create a narrative, and it doesn't matter what the evidence around that is. That they have that narrative, and they're going to stick with that narrative. I mean, that's what we see in Trump, and really, a lot of people think like that. At least amongst the 10%ers, 1%ers, and 0.1%ers. This is one of the huge issues in the courts and everywhere else, whether it be the economists, the psychologists, the sociologists. Yeah, I don't care where it is, or the capital venturists particularly. They don't know how to look at facts and evidence and see how it comes together. That's why, for example, the capital of interest, they don't even read the business plans. That's just if you're in with the little group of friends. And it's everywhere like that. IMF, oh Lord. I'm like, none of you know how to really, you know, as I say, I was there for 7 years working there, so I have a better, you know, the names and the people and the dynamics and the cases, but I know what's going on every single place in this town. And it's very easy to clean up. You know, this whole diplomatic immunity is BS. You can't use it if you're committing crimes, you know, particularly under international conventions. They just escalated and escalated and escalated, and that's when well, I knew Charmony. I knew Adrian was going to get rid of me, and in fact, there was a job in the front office of half budget, half. I think I already talked about this in one of the others. Half budget, half HR, and I got passed over by Adrian, and they brought in this young kid to do it. Nice young kid. I mean, he listened, and I told him everything that he had to do. He even offered, he had been working, he's gay, and his partner was from Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, but very, very wealthy family. But of course, no money from the family because he came to live with a man. So he's having to work 2 jobs until this guy can get his working papers. So he was having to work 2 jobs to support them. And then he, you know, I guess the guy got his working papers, and then he was giving this at Cafe Milano in Georgetown. And he said, you know, would you be interested in hostessing? And I said, yes, of course, because it was the Christmas time particularly. And I said, oh, I just try and work as much as I can during the holidays and just forget, because without my children, it's too painful. So I said, yes, of course, I'd be more than happy to keep busy. So I went over for an interview. I told him when I came back, I said, no, forget it. Because when I walked in, the stupid dumb blonde, I mean, she had on these 4 or 5 inch heels. I'm like, how do you work in a restaurant with those kind of heels on? And, you know, the stiletto types. And, you know, decked out. I mean, of course, you need to look nice when you're working in a restaurant, but you are working in a restaurant, so you also have to be practical. So we sit down to talk, and oh gosh, she complimented me on my eyes and my makeup. And I said, oh gosh, she's never gonna let me in the door. Never. I mean, I had the sun coming in my eyes, and when the sun hits it like that, the bright green, and right away she's like, oh, sure, again. This type of stuff makes women just so jealous. I mean, in this cesspool of whoring and pimping that's going on, if you're a threat to any of these women, or any of the managers, you know, the men are, don't care about they're not in competition there. But you know, in terms of work, yes, they don't want me in there. And the women, it's the work as well. I mean, you know, these are young kids. I'm like, you guys, I'm not any threat. Believe me, I'm not interested. So of course and I know that they needed help, because this kid at the IMF had told me, he said, I'm leaving and they really need some help, and they wanted me to stay, but I need a break. So I know for a fact they desperately needed somebody. And I mean, I'm so overqualified for the position, it's not even funny. particularly I speak fluent Spanish, fluent French, and fluent English. There are not a lot of people with, you know, who know how to present themselves in this town who are going to take that kind of job. I have to, because nobody will give me anything else. So, you know, I come back, I'm like, no way. He's like, oh, sorry. And I mean, I'm really angry that I was passed over for his job. As I say, I couldn't care less about the job, but I need the money and a roof over my head until I can get everybody to start moving. So then they moved me over to what's called strategy evaluation division, strategy and evaluation. And I mean, their job is to basically see if what this department is doing is being effective. Oh my God, it was run by an idiot, Robert Powell. Now he's a representative, a liaison from the IMF with the UN. Man should be fired. Oh, then he got a promotion. Because this department, and you know, at first it was very small when I first started working at ICD, almost nobody. And now, you know, it's, I forget how many people that work in there, but let's see, maybe 15. You know, with lots of salaries, and all they do is sit around and count. I mean, it's this whole complicated thing. It's all with this IT stuff, but basically what they're doing is tabulating how many courses they're distributing throughout the world and what type of courses they are. I'm like, God, you could do this really easily with an Excel spreadsheet. Oh, what all this? I mean, it really, you know, IT stuff and all of this analysis. And I'm like, well, if it's just to count the how much, you know, what kind of courses you're distributing, this is ridiculous. And my Lord, I mean, I usually stay away from all of their meetings. Now, how are you coming into a meeting? No, I'm good. I'll stay here and answer the phones. Thank you. I mean, you talk about waste of time. Just wasting and wasting and wasting and wasting and wasting time. However, these I was very interested in attending because I wanted to see exactly what they were doing and, you know, what kind of crap they were pulling. And yeah, they had, because what department does is, or the division does, I think it's once a year. They do, it's called CCB, Capacity Committee Builder. It's all of the big wigs from all of the different departments throughout the IMF that attend the final CCB meeting. And so they have these pre-CCB and pre-CCB, and then you have it within the division, and then they'll have a couple of meetings with all of the big wigs, and then there's the final one. So there's all of this hoopla. I mean, you talk about, you know, the emperor wearing no clothes and the tailors saying, look at my fine, you know, threads and the fine fabrics that I'm producing. And everybody, ooh, just like with the emperor wearing no clothes. And there is a child that's saying, the emperor's wearing no clothes here, but they don't want to listen. Because I told them. And in fact, oh, what an arrogant idiot this Robert Powell is. Because in one of the meetings, you know, kind of, I guess, halfway through the preparation time, took several months, and he said, well, does everybody understand, you know? And I said, well, yeah, I understood. And, you know, I'm not really, I just come into the division. I'm not familiar with all of this stuff. And so, you know, yeah, I understood. So that means it's a good presentation. Because for me, you know, I agree with Einstein. You know your stuff. You should be able to explain it to a barmaid. Problem is in this town these days is the barmaids don't have any more head than the PhDs that they're trying to seduce. So even these days with the barmaids, before the barmaids, you know, were real folk. Had some common sense. Now these girls, all they're looking for is a meal ticket or some guy to take them out to you know, wherever. That's all they care about. You know, going shopping. So even the barmaids these days in this town are pretty bad. But I said, yeah, I understood it. And he turned around and he just looked at me. I mean, just so denigrating, like, you stupid trophy wife. You know, he said, well, it wasn't made for you to understand. I mean, I was floored. I mean, if this hadn't been a workplace, he hadn't been my boss, oh Lord, would he gotten a tongue lashing from me. I bit my tongue, but I was like, buddy, I got your number now. And even, oh gosh, because this was the, you know, in November, because they ousted me at the end of November. And that also, Adrian's going to have a problem because they got a temp in for December and she should have kept me. And so it just, you know, strengthens the case. But, you know, I had this, one of these things, and it was my office space, you know, my desk space, and something there about Trump, you know, dump Trump or whatever it was, because I knew what he would do. I knew from the very beginning. Well, this guy's a huge Trump supporter. Love to see what he's saying nowadays. I'm sure he's changing his tune, but I know for a fact he's a huge Trump supporter because he, again, I mean, he came by my desk and was like, you better take that thing down. There are some people who might not like that. Again, I was like, how dare you? I'm not going around to telling people you should vote for, you know, Clinton, or you shouldn't vote for Trump, or this is my freedom of expression and freedom of speech stuff. How dare you? I mean, I took it down because I'm not, you know, if you disobey, they will come after you. I mean, even though I knew my goose was cooked, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna look for an altercation or a fight with anybody. And so you know, Adrian wasn't renewing my contracts, and I knew she wasn't going to. So I wrote a letter to Charmony Corey, the director of the department. And in fact, there were two women who were working me for years about Adrian, particularly when she came in. She was made the office manager. Oh, how these two women were working me. They were both up in the front office. One is Jocelyn van der Hagen. She's French. So she's going to be looking at some problems in terms of, you know, the people who are here, the foreigners who are here are in hot water, but it's a little bit different what the Americans are going to be looking at. And then there's Carla Culari, who she's Latina, Uruguay, I'm pretty sure, but, you know, of Italian, which that's near Argentina. There's a lot of Italian descendants in the region. But she's Latina, and I mean, both of them were just working me. Carla Culari wanted me to get rid of Adrian because she was angling. She was thinking that if I would get rid of Adrian, she could get offered the job of office manager. And I knew that. I mean, you know, I know when people are working me. I mean, my husband was always telling me, You know, don't you see they're working you, they're just taking advantage of you. They just, you know, they're angling to get something out of you. I said, nobody's working me. I see what they're doing. I'm doing it because I want to do it. Or, you know, I should be doing it. I'm not doing it because anybody's, you know, manipulating me or telling me to do something. No, I see through their BS. But I also am interested in the information because I know some of it's true. It's one of the things you learn very young with working with narcissists and psychopaths and pathological liars. There's always some truth there. There's always it always starts with some sort of fact. Then they take it all off into all sorts of realms. So you have to be able to sift through all of the different evidence and pull out where's the fact, where's the fact, where's the fact, and remove it from the fiction, and then try and put together the true story. I guess that's what everybody does in court. And actually, I think the whole court process and the whole political process came from the communication and, how shall I say it, interaction of women within social orders. This is somebody nobody talks about in the whole gender stuff. Everybody's supposed to be gender neutral. Well, no, women or men are different. You know, in each, there's positive things about men and negative, and positive things about women and negative. Unfortunately, we seem to be empowering the negative sides of both of them rather than the positive sides. So they're working me, and, you know, I'm like, yeah, fine, I know. Don't worry, I'm gonna put together this thing, and I'm gonna challenge Charmony, because I told Charmony, I wrote a letter, and in fact, Ralph Shammy, he was the one, because I told him, I said, you know, the bullying is horrible in the front office, and he said, well, I've heard about it. I'm like, well, why don't you guys do something? What I'm the only one who's ever supposed to take a stand and do something about anything. Everybody else, oh, I don't want to get involved because I don't want to get the hatchet. Oh, let the sacrificial lamb take it all on. So he said, why don't you put it in the, she had a suggestion box that was under lock and key, and she's the only one who had the key to it, because this was, you know, with the respectful workplace, this was one of the initiatives that's supposed to, you know, give us some solutions. I'm like, if you have a department head who doesn't care, I mean, she walks around the whole time like this. She doesn't want to, you know, she doesn't want to deal with any of it, because she can't. She's one of these narcissistic little, you know, puppets. I mean, you see her giving speeches. I'm like, how in the world did this woman ever get to her position? And I know, because they promote the most incompetent and the biggest brown nosers, particularly, you know, I would say the more recent, in the past decade, or two or three, you know, it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. And also, you have more and more and more and more, you know, chaos. They just keep on adding on and adding on. Managers, it's like, you know, managerialism. Let's stick some more people in there, you know, to give propaganda campaigns, and it's just gotten, you know, it's a cesspool. So I mean, one of the guys, the economist, he said, I've never seen a manager that's so bad. I said, well, I wish that was true, but yeah, she's pretty bad. I think I've seen some worse, unfortunately. But she doesn't understand anything about economics. She doesn't understand anything about managing. She's often her, you know, little grappling up the ladder of success and into schmoozing with the big wigs at the high, high level meetings. That's all they do. That's all they do. That's all they care about. And they create chaos with it. So she never responds to me. I'm like, okay, fine. I sent it to you. You were served. And I know very, very, very well you are going to come back years from now or whenever this comes to head and say, but I never got any letter. I mean, believe me, I know everybody's going to be pulling that thing out. But when this comes to head, yeah, it'll be your word against mine. But this was my commercial law professor, 101 at GW in 83, I never forget, might have been my junior year probably. One of the most useful courses I ever took. Really very good professor, He explained it, and it was basically torts, writs, and contracts, and that's basically my legal training. Or the academic. From there, I just started looking at all the stuff and saying, okay. But it gave me a good basis to understand, the fundamentals of our legal systems. And he said, look, first thing, if you ever get in a fight, get everything in writing. Because oral, verbal, people can promise you whatever they want. But if you don't have it in writing, doesn't mean a hill of beans. And usually what I'll do is, if somebody says something to me, I'll follow it up in an email or, some sort of communication, written communication, document that that's what they said. And if they don't deny it in a follow-up communication, well, it's kind of an admission. I mean, I know they'll contest that, but I'm like, well, nobody knows you guys don't know how to read. And also, when all of this comes out, goes to head, I know people around the world. Oh, this is another thing that the law professor said. He said, don't ever do anything illegal. If you get into a legal fight, play it straight. Play it straight to the very, 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 very end. Because if you do anything that, is illegal or not totally above board, it'll bite you in the ass at the end. And I have been meticulous about that. I mean, meticulous. And also, when this comes to head, I know people really around the world who will say, oh gosh, yeah, a lot of people might not like what she has to say, but this woman doesn't lie. She doesn't BS anybody. She would never make up anything. She just doesn't lie. I mean, my mom was a pathological liar, and I decided when I was in my late teens, I was like, I can't stand this. I am never going to lie. I mean, my mom, when we were growing up, you had to come up with a lie. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, you had to think, okay, what's she going to come up with? So we got to get our cover story here going before she attacks us on something. I mean, well, we might have gone to the movies or to the mall, but that was prohibited. We always were figuring out what's our alibi, and is everybody in agreement here? Don't wait for kids to grow up. And we were good kids. I mean, we as I said, our the bad things that we did was go to the movies without mom's permission, or go walk around the mall and look at, because we didn't have money for it, but we go and change of scene rather than working at the farm. Because this was in Louisiana, we were all off at school during the year, so when we go on vacation, we didn't know anybody there. We just had